Hello everyone, this is Dominic from Software Without Code. This channel is focused on showing you how to build full software products without writing a single line of code. In this video we will focus on building an SMS chatbot. You can see in the video in the background a demo of the final product. You'll see that we've created a fictional bakery. Maybe this bakery has 1 to 2 employees, and they employ an SMS-enabled chatbot to answer frequently asked questions without paying a developer a single dollar, and without writing any code themselves. I'll show you how to build the whole system end to end, and I'll also show you how to take down the service. You can expect to pay a small fee for the text messaging service, although it likely won't cost you more than $2 just to try this out and send dozens of text messages. Let's take a look at the services we will need and the costs associated with them first.
All right, so let's take a look at pricing first. We're using 2 services to accomplish the task of building an SMS-enabled chatbot. The first service is called Dialogflow. Dialogflow is a Google product, and it is what we're going to use to build the actual chatbot itself into the inputs and outputs. So if we take a look at the pricing page, you'll see that they have a free standard edition and a pay-as-you-go enterprise edition. Now we are only going to be using the free standard edition here, so you shouldn't have to worry about any costs at all. And for all your uses on the side of Dialogflow, it will be free. Keep in mind that if you are an enterprise or larger business, or if for your needs you decide that you need to go pay as you go, there will be other costs associated with that. Now we're going to go over to our text message service, Twilio, and take a look at the pricing. Now Twilio's pricing is a little more complicated. We'll be using the programmable SMS. This programmable SMS service costs $0.0075 per message to send or receive. This is in USD, of course, and so the number that you use to send the message actually also costs money. It costs about $1 a month, again in USD. So altogether, if you send, let's say, 100 messages and receive 100 messages, which would be more than enough to do sufficient testing, and you keep the number active for 1 month, it'll cost you about $2.50. So it's just something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is that when you load your Twilio account with funds, I think the minimum amount you can put on is $20. So you don't have to use all those $20 at once, but just something to be aware of. It is a little frustrating, but it's the way they do the service. Anyways, we're going to go on to actually building the chatbot now. We're going to start in Dialogflow. We won't be using Twilio until later when we actually want to integrate the text messaging service or SMS. So now I'm going to go to dialogflow.com. I'm going to hit Go to Console. Now, it just logged me right into the console, but keep in mind that it will probably ask you to sign in with your Google account, and you'll have to grant it permissions if you feel comfortable doing so. And once you go through the typical login with Google process, you will see this screen. The first thing we're going to do is create an agent. An agent is essentially our bot, or what we're going to call our chatbot. So I'm going to call it SWC chatbot, the most original name possible. Let's choose a time zone. Oh, looks like our name can't have white spaces, so we'll just add a dash there. We'll choose a time zone. I'm going to choose the Eastern time zone, or New York, English language. And yeah, let's create. Great. So our chatbot is created.
The first thing you might notice is that the console has now gotten a lot more complicated. Essentially on this left menu there's many options. Don't worry though, there's only 2 that we're going to concern ourselves with. The first is going to be intents, and then the second is integrations. We're not going to, like I said, we're not going to worry about anything else. That's for future videos. So while we will start with intents, and intents are how we build the chatbot, and we'll get more into those in a moment, I'll briefly show you integrations. So integrations are third-party or external services that we can connect our chatbot to. There's lots here. You might see some familiar things like, Amazon Alexa or Twitter, and there's a lot of them, but don't worry, we're only going to focus on 2. Twilio text messaging, which should sound familiar based on what I showed earlier in this video. That's how we're going to connect our chatbot to a text messaging service and be able to send text messages to our chatbot and receive text messages from our chatbot. The second integration point we will be using in this video is this web demo integration. Now, all this is it just creates a web page for you to test your chatbot with. Now, we're going to come back to here, but just, good to keep that in mind. Anyways, we're going back to intents, and you can see that there are two default intents here. Essentially, an intent is a mapping between an input that the chatbot expects and a response that it will say to that input. So, for example, in our case, making a frequently asked question chatbot for a fictional bakery, we will create an intent which asks about, or we could create an intent which asks about ready-made cakes if our bakery has ready-made cakes. So I'm just going to go and jump into the example because I think that speaks better than anything I could say on the topic at this moment. So I'm just going to minimize all these. So as I said, our intent is our mapping between expected inputs and responses. Our expected inputs are known as training phrases. This is what the user will say to the chatbot. And the responses the chatbot says are just responses. So I'm going to maximize the training phrases pane, and you'll see that you're able to add training phrases. And you can add multiple training phrases, and in fact should add multiple training phrases. I can say from experience that the best rule of thumb for the amount of expected inputs for chatbot in general, you should try to have at least 10 to 15. If not more. And the reason for that is, if you think about it, a person can say something in so many ways. So, for example, just in our case about ready-made cakes, I put 3 potential inputs in here. First one is, do I have to order a cake in advance? The second is, do you have ready-made cakes for pickup? And the third is, can I just come in and pick up a cake? There's 3 very different ways of saying the same thing, and in fact you'll find that there's an almost unlimited amount of ways to say any one thing, which is why you want to try to cover as many bases as possible. Because the more users you have using your system, the more variant inputs you will hear, and so to create a more robust system, you want as many inputs as possible. Now, because this is a video, and I don't want to waste all your time, I'm just going to enter 4 for now, but just know that in practice, if I was doing this for a client or like a production chatbot, I would have many more than 4. Now, for responses, these can be a bit more flexible, and the reason is essentially the more responses that you add, or the more things the chatbot can say, the better the chatbot will be, and the more real it will feel. However, it's not as essential. So you could, for example, have just one response for all your training phrases. I do recommend, between 1 and 5 is pretty good. You don't need as many different responses as you do training phrases or inputs. It's just, a good practice to follow to have more than maybe, we'll say, like I said, between 1 and 5. So again, because this is a video, I'm just going to put 1 in here, but essentially the chatbot hears any of these phrases, such as, are all your cakes custom order? It will respond with, we offer both ready-made cakes for immediate pickup and custom order cakes. And there's more to it, but I'll let you read it from your screen. So now, before we save it, let's name it, and we'll call it ready-made cakes. Now, great. Don't forget to save it. This is the most important step, because if you don't, you'll lose all this work you just did. Great, intent is saved. Now I'm just going to click the intents button on the left menu to go back to our list of intents, and you'll see that ready-made cakes is here. At the bottom right corner, you'll see there's something that pops up. The agent is training. Essentially, it is an AI system. AI systems require a phase known as training, and I'm not going to get into that right now, but maybe in a future video. And so it usually takes a few seconds for the chatbot to acclimate to the new intents that you add. It is possible to chain intents, so in other words, ready-made cakes could be followed up with an order intent that takes an order from a customer. However, We're not going to cover that in this video. This is just for frequently asked questions where every intent is distinct from every other intent. It's the simplest chatbot you can make. So now you might wonder, how do I test my intent that I just added? In the right side of the screen, you'll see this try it now that I clicked on. And you can type in any sort of input you want to ask your chatbot. And I said hello, it said greetings, how can I assist? You might be wondering where this response is coming from. It's from these default intents. Dialogflow provides you default hello intents. You can remove them, create your own. I like to leave them because I think they're generic enough and decent enough for our use case, but you know, for your chatbot, you might not feel the same way. So now let's test ready-made cakes. Do you offer ready-made cakes? Yep. And so, just as I expected, I said something that was sort of similar to our input phrases, if not exactly like it, and I got the default response I was expecting. Now, this is a baked example, ha ha ha, because obviously we only have one intent, so it's the only possible thing that could fire. However, I'm going to skip ahead to after I've created several more intents, and we'll test the chatbot then. It's the same process as before, so I've no point in wasting your time showing multiple intent creations. Boom, welcome back. So I have finished creating all the intents for our chatbot. Just a reminder, each intent is independent of every other intent, so asking about cake prices has nothing to do with asking about wedding cakes. I followed a similar pattern with input, training phrases, and responses, as you just saw, and I'm going to show you how to demo your chatbot now when you think you're more or less finished. We could use this try it now that I showed you earlier on the right, but I'm going to show you another way to do it that is hopefully a little more fun. So I'm going to hit the integrations tab on the left side menu, and then the first integration here, which is web demo, I'm going to click on the toggle. Now that it's enabled, we have a link here. Just click on the link, and boom, you have a little mini web chat, a little mini web chat box that you can use to chat with your chatbot. So let's ask it something. Do you make wedding cakes? And we get the wedding cake response. It says our wedding cakes are all done custom, etc., etc. When are you open? So this is a similar demo to what you saw at the beginning of the video, except through the text messaging app on my phone. So I'm not going to spend too long demoing this. I just want to show you that this is a viable option if you, or for when you want to test your chatbot. And I recommend doing this before doing the text messaging to make sure A, you get the responses you're expecting for the inputs you want to give, and also B, it's free to do. When you're sending text messages, you are paying Twilio a small fee for every sent and received text message. Great. Now that that's out of the way, let's go back to Dialogflow briefly. I'm just going to close this. Now, a good thing to do when you're done demoing would be to turn this integration off. It's not essential, but just good practice. And you'll notice here there is a Twilio text messaging integration. Now, before we can enable it, we have to get 3 pieces of information from Twilio, and I'll show you how to get these information, but you're going to have to get something called an account SID, an account token, and a phone number. So the phone number is essentially the number that is going to be sending the text messages and receiving the text messages. That's registered from Twilio. An account token is just sort of like a secret key or access to allow Dialogflow to communicate with your Twilio service. And account SID is just a unique identifier that shows or lets Twilio has identifying your account. And this request URL will be something that we're going to put into Twilio, but I'll come back to this in a second. I just wanted to kind of show you what the integration will look like. Let's go back to our Twilio tab. Still on pricing. I'm just going to go to the home page. Great, in the home page. Now let's go to the Twilio Console. So I'm assuming most of you will probably be creating your Twilio account for the first time. This is This is a it is a new account, but I've already been playing around with it. So I'm going to show you the screen you will see when you first. So when you first create your account, you're going to see this screen. It's going to say create a project at the top with templates and products. And Twilio can be a little confusing and kind of misleading too, because we don't want to use a template. We actually just want to use a product. So for product, and there's lots of them, as you can see as I'm scrolling. We're only concerned with one, and is programmable SMS. So I'm going to choose programmable SMS, and that's it. I'm just going to hit continue. In a second, Twilio is going to ask me, let's name it, we'll call it SWC Bakery Bot. Continue, and I hit continue at the bottom. Now, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions. You can skip them all. I could have hit skip all the questions, but I just wanted to, in case anyone hits continue and is wondering what to do with these steps, I'll just show you. So we'll assume we will assume there are no teammates. And in my case, there aren't. In your case, there might be, but you can just skip this step. And so our project is loaded here, and I'm going to point out a few things before we get started actually making the SMS integration point for our chatbot. The first is I pointed out in the integrations page on Dialogflow that you needed a few pieces of information. The first was an account SID. This is the unique identifier for this Twilio account, and the auth token similarly is right here. Now, I'm not going to show this auth token on screen, and just as a point, you should not either. This is the secret key to your account, and so anyone with access to this key could use your account for any variety of things, and I highly, highly, highly recommend do not share this key or allow anyone to see it. Keep it secret to you and you only. Now that that's out of the way, we're going to go through the process of creating the messaging service on Twilio. However, before we can do that, we'll need to purchase a number, and in order to purchase a number, we actually have to verify our own phone number with Twilio. Twilio does this, I think, as a spam protection mechanism. I suppose the idea is that if you verify your phone number with Twilio, chances are you are not going to be, or less likely to be a spammer. Yeah, spammer meaning someone who sends tons of text messages or robocalls people. So how do you verify your number? You hit upgrade here on the left side of the left menu, and verify a caller ID. I've already verified my number. Of course, this is going to be blacked out on your screen, but there will be a button here that says verify your number, and you can follow the steps. You'll be able to receive a call or a text message with your to your number, and then enter the code. I'm not going to show that at this particular moment because well, I've already done it, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, or if you need clarification on something. Great, so now that that's out of the way, let's go back to the dashboard. So now that I'm back at the dashboard, let's get started on actually making the messaging service. So for programmable SMS, the first thing we want to do is get a number. So programmable SMS, let's hit get started here. And you'll see after you hit get started, yes, I have a trial account, but first let's get a Twilio phone number. Okay, let's get a number. Great, so it's already suggested a number for me. It's in Canada. I am based out of Canada as well, so I want to find a Canadian number to not incur extra SMS charges when I go to test it with my personal phone number. You also want to know, obviously, if you're doing this for a customer base or something where your customer base is located out of, what country, because you don't want them to pay extra to text your chatbot. But let's pretend for a second that it didn't suggest a number. I'm going to take you through the search process. So I'm going to, don't like this one, search for a different number. Now, you can search by digits, but we're just going to leave this blank. And capabilities here, you want to ensure SMS is selected. It's the only one you need. In future projects, you may want to try voice, fax, or MMS, but we'll just select SMS for now. Again, leaving it blank, and select your country. I've selected Canada. If you're based out of the United States, select the United States. Let's hit search. And a whole bunch of numbers pop up. So typically for SMS, it wouldn't really matter. You pay the same if you send a message anywhere inside your country. At least that's my case. I don't know for your specific case. You're going to want to consult your service provider, your text message service provider. However, for me, I'm based out of Ontario, but I see here that there's British Columbia and Quebec, all Canadian provinces. I'll just pick the first number that pops up because it doesn't really matter for me. But again, these are things you want to take into consideration before you choose a number. So great, my new phone number is this number here, and we're going to hit done. So I have a phone number. This is the phone number you will be texting, and your chatbot will be responding with, or responding from. So you can test it here if you choose to send it to your number. Of course, I've blacked out my number here, but now let's get to creating this messaging service, and it's a lot simpler than you think it is, or than you think it might be. So I'm going to go to SMS on the left side menu, click on that tab. Messaging service is the first default selection. Let's create new messaging service. Now, what are we going to call this messaging service? We're going to call it SWC Bakery Bot. And our use case, this is important because there's some settings associated with it. We can scroll all the way down and click Chatbot Interactive two-way. This is two-way, of course, indicating that you can send and receive from it. So I'm going to create the bakery bot. Boom. Okay. Awesome. So now we're pretty much done. So let's go and just take stock of what we have here. So we're going to hit process inbound messages, and this is a request URL. This is what we're going to get from the Dialogflow integration page. So let's go back to Dialogflow for a second here, and we're already on the integration page. Twilio text messaging, let's click on that. So again, the account token, the account SID, the phone number, let's hit enable. I'm going to copy this request URL, go back to Twilio, put the request URL here, process inbound messages and request URL, the fallback URL. It might be good practice to have one of these if you're using this for, say, safety critical, or, well, not you would be using this for safety critical, but like if your chatbot, you want to minimize the risk of failure, because maybe you're using it for a business and it would represent a monetary loss. For our use case, we don't care. It's just an example, so I'm going to only use the request URL. Great. So let's save this. And let's go back to heading back. Dashboard. We'll get to the Gramble SMS dashboard, where you'll see, actually, I did mention there were costs associated with the account, but this trial account has $15.50 remaining, so you might actually be able to just try this for free, just worth noting. Let's go to show API credentials at the top right here, and this is the account SID I mentioned earlier. There will be the account token, and now we just need the phone number. So the account token, I'm going to skip ahead to when I've already entered it. You'll hit this I, and you'll see the account token. I don't want to share it, even though I'm going to immediately delete this account after creating this video. Nonetheless, just strongly remind you with strong perseverance, do not share this auth token with anyone. Great, so I'll see you in a second after I've entered it. And just to remind you, I'll be entering it here in the second slide, account token. So now we have to get the phone number to put back into the Dialogflow box, but also we actually need to associate that phone number to the messaging service we just created. And I'll show you how to do that. So we hit SMS on the left side menu here. We're in the messaging service. I'm going to just click on the SWC Bakery Bot messaging service that was just created. Great. So now we see numbers. Let's add an existing number. And here is the number. So let's just copy that. I'm going to go back to, well, actually, first I'm going to add selected number. So this now associates that number with the messaging service. Boom. Now let's go back to Dialogflow, and I'll just enter the phone number into the integrations here. This third option. Now I'm going to format it so that it's, there we go. And that should be good. So I'm just going to hit start, checking status, bot was started, and cool. So just as a side comment, when you want to stop it, you can go back to this integrations tab and hit stop, or you can just toggle this switch. So that's it. Now we're just going to cut to a video of us demoing this bot. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If I skipped over something or something was unclear, let me know. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And let me know what you want me to cover next. I'm going to continue this chatbot series. We're going to do more complicated Dialogflow videos as it goes. I'll probably cover other chatbot creation services because there are ones comparable to Dialogflow, such as one by Amazon, and also Microsoft has one too. But cool. Thanks for watching. Alright, so this is a demo of the chatbot we just made. So I want to point out, first thing you'll notice is that the first text message I sent, hello, actually the response is appearing out of order. That's just an issue with my phone and how it stores date time, so you can ignore that. Secondly, you'll notice that the text messages, unlike in the intro video, they all show that they are part of the Twilio trial. The first few words of every text message are defaulted by Twilio. It will be like that until you put money on your account and leave the trial mode. The great news is you can do all this basically for free. Okay, so as a final step, I'm going to show you how to delete all the resources that you used or that you created here, and this is to prevent any additional charges. Now, of course, that's more important on the Twilio side, but I'll still show you on the Dialogflow side. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go back to Twilio, and we'll go back to the dashboard of our programmable SMS project. Now, just as a reminder, if you do this drop down here, you'll see that the project created was SWC Bakery Bot. You click on that, and then make sure that the dashboard, you're in the dashboard tab from the side menu. So in order to delete this, we just need to delete the messaging service and release the phone number. So we go to SMS on the left side and make sure messaging service is the highlighted tab, which it is by default for me. I'm going to click on SWC Bakery Bot, which was our messaging service. And now I'm in the SWC Bakery Bot, and I'm just going to delete this messaging service. It's this text button at the bottom of the page. So let's hit delete this messaging service. Are you sure you want to delete this messaging service? And of course I'm going to hit delete. Okay, so the messaging service is deleted. There's now no way for Dialogflow to communicate with Twilio at this point, which is great. And yeah, that's all you need to do to delete the messaging service. And just as a final step, now normally you would have to release the phone number, but because we are in a trial account, we won't need to do that. Just as a comment, if you are not in a trial account, there will be, I believe there will be an option that says phone numbers, and when you select it, you'll be able to manage your phone number and release it. But unfortunately, I can't show that from this trial account. If you really want to see that, I can post another video in the near future. Just let me know in the comments below. So now, finally, we're just going to go back to Dialogflow. Now, we'll pretend that you just went to the console, you're on the home page, click Integrations. And all you need to do is turn off this Twilio text message integration by hitting the toggle. Oh, stopped. Great, so now it's no longer talking to Twilio, and you don't need to worry about incurring any additional SMS charges. Thanks for watching.